China, which is the fourth largest country in the world by land area and has nearly 1/5 of the world's entire population, only has 6% of the global renewable internal freshwater resources. According to the World Bank, China has just 1/5 of the per capita internal freshwater resources compared to the world average. And such low levels of freshwater availability has put China at the brink of a severe water crisis. If we take a look at the population density map of China, more than 94% of the entire China's population live to the east of the imaginary line called the Hu Line in an area that makes up 43% of China's total land area, and only 6% of the population lives west of the line, making up 57% of China's territory, which clearly exhibits that the east of the Hu Line is more inhabitable than the west. It's because it all has to do with the availability of rivers and fertile land. But unfortunately, most of the water bodies in the region are facing severe water crises, not because they are drying, it's because they have become dangerously polluted and filled with toxins. According to the World Bank, half of China's population cannot access water that is safe for human consumption, and 2/3 of China's rural population relies on tainted water. Water pollution in China is such a problem that there could be catastrophic consequences for future generations. In 2019, the Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China reported that only 71.4% of monitored surface water met the national standard for water quality. According to a study published in the journal Science of the Total Environment in 2020, around 56% of China's groundwater was classified as being poor or extremely poor quality that is unfit for consumption. And industrial waste dumping in rivers, lakes, and ground is a big problem in China. In 2019, industrial pollution was the primary source of water pollution, accounting for 75.4% of the total pollution incidents investigated. The Ministry of Water Resources estimated that in 2020, around 70% of China's rivers and lakes were affected by industrial pollution. As a consequence, pollution-induced algae blooms cause the surface of China's lake to turn a bright green, but greater problems may lurk beneath the surface. According to one report, groundwater in 90% of China's cities is contaminated. And not just industrial waste dumping, agricultural runoff is another leading cause of the water crisis and toxicity of available resources. In the past year, pollution levels have doubled from what the government originally predicted because the impact of agricultural waste was ignored. Farm fertilizers has largely contributed to water contamination. China's water sources contain toxic levels of arsenic, fluorine, and sulfates, and pollution has been linked to China's high rates of liver, stomach, and esophageal cancer. Rural villages located near factory complexes rely on the contaminated water for drinking, washing, and cooking. These villages have become known as cancer villages because of their high rates of cancer and death. But why do most of the rivers, lakes, and groundwater in eastern China are faced with such a problem? You see, most of the rivers in China have east and south flow because of the Tibetan Plateau, which is often referred to as the roof of the world. The Tibetan Plateau, located in southwestern part of China, has an average elevation of over 14,800 feet and is the source of many major rivers in Asia, including several in China. And because the plateau slopes towards the east and south, water naturally flows downhill due to gravity, seeking the lowest elevation. As a result, rivers originating in higher elevation tend to flow towards the lower regions, creating major river basins in the east and south, making land fertile and ideal for agriculture. And because of the same reason, China's most of the population settled and grew in and around major river basins such as the Yellow River, Pearl River, and the Yangtze River. These rivers for centuries have been providing favorable conditions for agriculture, making land suitable for cultivation and supporting a dense population. This uneven distribution of water system creates a critical water scarcity for the people living in western and northern parts of China. In conjunction with this scarcity, there is a tremendous population pressure on the freshwater sources in eastern and southern China. Take a look at the level of water stress, which shows quantities of freshwater withdrawal as a proportion of total available freshwater resources. Since the 1980s, the stress levels have been on a constant rise and blew exponentially in 2005. If you compare this chart to the economic and industrial boom in China from a 2013 survey, it accurately represents the sudden surge in water demand to support the needs of rapidly growing Chinese industries and expanding agriculture. And the major rivers like Yangtze, Yellow, and Pearl River have been feeding enormous amounts of water to ever-growing agriculture and exploding population. And these rivers play a vital role in providing water necessary for crop cultivation, especially in regions with limited rainfall. The Yangtze River, the longest river in China, has been a lifeline for the country. It flows through major agricultural regions such as the Sichuan Basin, Jiangsu, Anhui, and Hubei provinces, creating massive opportunities for farming and other agricultural-based industries to flourish. In the year 2020, the agricultural output value in the Yangtze River economic belt exceeded 5 trillion yuan, which is equivalent to about $783 billion. Along with Yangtze, the Yellow River, also known as the Mother River of China, has also played a significant role in supporting agriculture in northern China. Its basin covers regions such as Shaanxi, Shaanxi, Henan, and Inner Mongolia. According to the Yellow River Conservancy Commission, in 2020, the total area of irrigated land in the Yellow River Basin was approximately 23 million hectares, accounting for over 30% of China's total irrigated land. Along with agriculture, water is a vital resource for other industries as well. And it is apparent that most of the non-agricultural industries such as mining, manufacturing, technology, and textile are set up near the major water systems, mostly dominating eastern and southern China. And these industries consume around 230 billion cubic meters of water annually. So what all these numbers mean? It means China has been failing in recouping its internal water resources and is unable to fulfill the rising demand of water usage for its industrial and massive population. If we go back to the per capita renewable internal freshwater resource chart, it shows there is a severe decline in water availability for the country. The very rivers and basins that became the foundation for agricultural and industrial boom in China are now faced with depleting water levels, severe pollution, and contamination. And unfortunately, there is still no strict control and monitoring over the toxic discharge from factories and farms. Due to poor environmental regulations, local corruption, and weak enforcement, factories are able to freely discharge their wastewater into lakes and rivers, contaminating every possible water body and groundwater. So why is there such a lack of efficient pollution control and wastewater management in China? You see, rapid industrial growth and urbanization in China have placed immense pressure on water resources and wastewater management systems. The scale and pace of industrial development have often outpaced the implementation of effective pollution control measures. Enforcement of environmental regulations have been challenging, particularly at the local level, due to limited resources, capacity, and coordination. Also, China's focus on economic growth and development has, at times, led to prioritizing short-term economic gains over environmental protection. However, the fact of the matter is, balancing economic growth with environmental sustainability is a very complex challenge. Some existing wastewater treatment plants are aging and are unable to handle the increasing volume and complexity of wastewater. Inadequate investment in upgrading and expanding wastewater treatment infrastructure, particularly in smaller cities and rural areas, has been a challenge. This has resulted in limited access to proper treatment facilities and increased discharge of untreated or partially treated wastewater. There have been increasing efforts to emphasize the importance of green and sustainable development in recent years. The Chinese government has recognized the importance of environmental protection and has implemented stricter regulations, invested in wastewater treatment infrastructure, and encouraged the adoption of cleaner production practices. Ongoing initiatives focus on enhancing enforcement, promoting sustainable development practices, and improving coordination among government agencies to address the issue related to water pollution and wastewater management effectively. It's important to note that while China has made progress in addressing its freshwater crisis, the scale and complexity of the challenges require sustained efforts, ongoing monitoring, and continuous adoption of strategies to ensure long-term water security and sustainability. This is Stories Across, and thank you for watching.